Hey, family. My name is Olis, and I'm a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And Glenn, thank you for the great honor of speaking at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's one thing to be invited, but it's another deal to be invited back. So thank you so much. My sobriety date's May 21st, 1987. And I tell you that because it is stunning even to me. You know, Yana with 15 days, or anybody that's here that is new or not so new, just not living in joy, not living in freedom, not living in sort of a knowing that it's going to all be okay. I'm talking to you. So I'm born and raised in New York. I'm the third of four girls. I took my first drink at 4. Scotch seemed like a good idea at 8, and I was sippy on scotch for many years. At 13, I was full blown in bars hanging out. I'd grown up in bars, so bars were comfortable for me. And at 26, I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't come to stop drinking, and I didn't come to stay. So, how about that part? So, it doesn't matter why you're here today because nobody gets here on the wings of victory. I've yet to meet, take my number if you got here on a good day because I want to talk to you. I got here and things were not swinging my way. And I know some things now that I didn't know when I got here. And so I want to talk about those up front. And then I want to talk about dependence. I really appreciate the daily reading today. What I know now is my only purpose for being at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and opening my mouth is to provide an adequate representation of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. The only reason. And what I want to tell you is that I'm living in a kind of joy, a kind of peace, a kind of knowing this extraordinary. I really do mean beyond my wildest dreams. And I don't mean that things are swinging my way. I don't mean that. I just got dog walked. I mean, dog walked. And it doesn't matter because I'm learning how not to depend and worship the God of reason. Because that's what I was doing when I got here. You know, I have the blessing and the curse of having some brain cell activity. You know, I often joke that people that know me know I say, it doesn't matter why you're disturbed, it matters why you're disturbable. And I give this example. If you come up to me and you tell me I'm fat, like I'm disturbed. But if you come up to me and you tell me I'm stupid, I'm undisturbed, right? And what's the difference? Well, the difference is I don't have an underlying fear about being stupid. And sort of the challenge with that is I think I can figure it out. And trying to figure it out often is calamity. I mean, it's often a comedy show. So I want to talk about the way that I got to joy and freedom and the way that I try to stay in joy and freedom. But I want to talk about how it's never perfect, at least not for me. I've not ascended to a place where the certain trials and low spots don't give me a run for my money. I've not ascended to a place where I don't sometimes get scared or open my mouth and say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. Here's the thing. I'm a planner. I will have an Excel spreadsheet. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. And I will plan a disaster. I will literally plan and budget a full disaster because I'm not perfect. But here's the thing, and we heard about it in the reading. These 12 steps, this is out of the forward to the 12 and 12, which are spiritual in nature. When practice, I would put the word if practice as a way of life, have the ability to not only expel the desire to drink and use and meet boy meets girl, the Amazon boxes, the all of the stuff, all of the stuff outside of me and God that I want to use to be okay. And it can make me happily and usefully whole. Here's the joke about that. I didn't come here to be useful. Are you kidding me? I came here to get rid of my problems. And it turns out that the spiritual paradox is that it's in serving you. It's in thinking about you. It's answering when I don't want to. It's showing up when I don't want to. I'm probably going to stop saying this, so I'm going to say it now because I really do mean it. And even though I'm going to stop saying it, I'm not going to stop meaning it. I don't want to talk. I don't want to speak. I want to be the booker. I want to be the flyer maker. Like, that's what I want to do. I do service for the Fellowship of the Spirit 11 Step speaker meeting, and I was happy to be the booker. And then they volunteered me to be the Q&A person. I want to do that. But what I've learned is that if I say yes to what God sends me, it comes with joy. It comes with peace. It comes with freedom. I do the things that I don't want to do in order to have the life I want. But I don't have the capacity on my own to do that. I have to surrender to the power in order to do that. I don't want to make my bed. Lord knows I don't want to exercise. I don't want to eat right. I don't want to do any of it. I don't want to sponsor. I don't want to speak. I don't want to do anything. I want to decorate my house and travel the world. That's what I want to do. And if that worked, I'd do that. But it turns out it doesn't work. That the focusing on the things that I want doesn't bring me joy. It brings me a sense of disconnection, a loneliness, a sense of dissatisfaction. Because I'm an alcoholic and I'm human. No matter what I get, I want something else. And then I get the thing I want and it's lovely, and then I want something else. Or I get the thing I want and it's terrible and I want something. It doesn't matter. I want something else. And so the trick I found in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm going to talk about the steps because I got plenty of time. The trick is to be happy with what I have. The trick is to find joy and freedom in where I am. Let's talk about the steps because we got plenty of time. And I want to talk about them in relationship to this notion of dependency. I'm going to be dependent on something, and the question is what? Can I be dependent on the faith that I have in the power? Can I depend on that? Even and especially when things are not bright and shiny, when it's raining, when I'm disappointed, when I'm heartbroken, I was somewhere recently. I was at a children's campsite that was the location for a women's retreat. One of those campsites where you sit up in the bed, the bunk bed, and you hit your head at the bed above because it's made for children. Yeah, where the bathroom's up the road. This is not luxury. You guys think it's luxury. It's never luxury. I don't know. Maybe the people that are not on the AA Chitlin circuit are traveling in luxury. I'm like at the campsite, right? And I can't sleep, but I'm laying there and I start thinking about money. And you know what I said to myself? Because I talk to me. I talk to inanimate objects. I just talk too much. I said to myself, girl, that's fear of financial insecurity. What are you worried about? You live in abundance. Yana with 15 days. Ash with 260. Amy, you just 3 days away from the miracle first year. Man, everything that is yours is already seeking you. It's already coming. It's already on the way. So let's go through the steps. When I got to Alcoholics Anonymous at 26 years old, I came and I thought, I'm going to get a new hairdo and a new relationship, right? Because the new relationship is going to fix everything, right? Woo! The comedy of it all, right? And it's going to be okay. I'm going to move on. I got here and I was 26 years old and I was a young, skinny Black woman. That was a long time ago. And it's like, it's an old white man. It's an old person's program, but like now I'm the old person. But it's like an old white guy's program, right? Those are the demographics. And I look around and I'm like, absolutely not. Like, absolutely not, right? And now I'm the old person, right? Just stick around. It gets so good. I'm going to talk about the steps, but let me say this. When I got here, if I'd written down everything that I wanted, and then I'd multiplied it. And I hidden that somewhere, and I pulled it out today and looked at it. I'd have cheated myself if I'd gotten that. I'd cheat myself. Do I have everything I want? No. But some of the stuff I want ain't no good for me. I mean, actually, that's how I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Chasing the things that I wanted. And so I got to Alcoholics Anonymous and I thought that I could read the steps that are hanging on the shade. Um, and I'm looking around at the people and I thought, why are you still here 10, 15 years later? Only 12 of them. Like, what is wrong with you? Because I didn't understand what they were. It's not a self help program. These are not a set of instructions that I check the list and do it. Like, I live in these. I developed this as a way of living. And so, in meetings, we often read how it works. And the ABCs, right before that, it says before or after, right? These three pertinent ideas. I'm alcoholic. I can't manage my life. Probably no human power. God could and would if sought. Like it's in the seeking. And so I didn't understand that what one was doing was it was helping me lay this foundation for a life of seeking and surrendering. And so I thought there were two parts, that I was powerless and my life was unmanageable. But I've come to understand that my first step problem, the problem that I'm really treating, has three parts. The first part is that I'm bodily different. And, after 72 hours, the science says there's no alcohol in my body. I don't have a craving. So, like, that's not the thing to focus on because alcohol is a symptom, right? The real problem's me. How about that? And for people like me that do geographics, it's so funny because no matter where I go, there I am. The second part of my first step problem is in my mind. It's the voice in my head. And she just doesn't stop, man. I often say my favorite chapter is more about alcoholism, which could be entitled The State of Mind That Precedes a Relapse, right? Because it's this stuff, like it's going to be different this time. Jim, the second guy in the example, right? The first guy is the carpet slipper dude. I haven't had a drink in a long time. I can drink. I recently went through the duty free shop. And for the people that know me, I'm thrifty. I love a bargain. And so I go through the duty free shop. They force you through the duty free shop, right? And it says that the liquor's 20% off. And in my mind, which is where the problem centers, I think, oh, a sale. What am I do with that? What, burn my life to the ground? So the voice in my head will tell me all these things. But Jim, the second example, the guy that puts whiskey in milk, like it took me a while to see it. And, maybe I'm not right about this, whatever you think. But I've come to believe that Jim is telling me the state of mind before a relapse is I can do some of the work and get all the benefits. I can make a beginning, that I don't have to do the inconvenient part. I don't have to answer. I don't have to get up early. I don't have to, there's a guy from the UK that's trying to book me to speak at, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning. It's some bizarre. I got to say, yeah, because I have to do the things that are inconvenient. If I only do the things that are convenient, it ain't really service, is it? But in my mind, the third part of my first step problem is why I'm still here, right? It's the spiritual malady. I'm gonna get some maybe flack for this. This is my number right here, right here. Um, I've come to believe that the third part of my first step problem, my spiritual malady, is the delusion that I am not in every moment eternally and perpetually connected to the source of all things. That the great power doesn't reside within me and within you. It's the delusion that there is us, that there's not us, that there's others. There's no others. There's just us. And man, that's hard. It's particularly hard if you're part of a group that's always treated bad. You know what I mean? That's a different topic, but like to get past it, to really get past it and say that it's the soul that's encased inside the body that's the most important thing. That I've got to get past all of it in order to have a sense of true connection to the source of all things and to you. And in fact, through you, I meet the power over and over and over again. And so, this third part of my first step problem, my friend Ian says that you can't see the spiritual malady, the third part of my first step problem, but you can see the evidence of it. Like you can't see the wind, but you can see the evidence of it, right? The wind blows and you don't see it, but the trees move. And when my malady moves, I can see the evidence of it in the bewilderment. It's on page 52. Problems in my personal relationships, rate of misery and depression. I wake up in the morning and feel good. And before I can get up and go to the bathroom, if I'm not on the beam, man, I'm worried about something. And every moment I get to decide that I don't just believe in a power greater than me, which is the second step. I have faith in a power greater than me. I can surrender all of it. I don't have problems. I have God. You know, I've come to believe that the second step is the admission that I'm not God because it says, I came to believe in a power greater than me. Well, if there's a power greater than me, it means I'm not the greatest power. And if I'm not the greatest power, I'm not God. And that's the restoration to sanity, the realization that I'm not it. But over and over and over again, I think I'm it. Here's the thing I say all the time. You ever have an argument with somebody, you're going back and forth, you're winning that argument? You win it. But they're not there. It's just you. But you can have the whole argument with them because I think I know what the person's going to say. I think I know what they think, how they feel. The power of asking questions. It seems like something's different between us. Is there something I've done? Is everything okay? Right? Just the power of just showing up and asking, not thinking I know. I was in a meeting once and I heard this guy say, if I could surrender in the third step, it'd be a 3-step program. I love that because I can't surrender in 3. I can't. I understand that I need to. But even today, there's this divide, often more than I'd like to be true, between what I know and what I can do. In Bill's story, he talks about self-knowledge. Sure, that's the trick. See, now I know. I could do better because I know better. No, I can't do better because I know better. There's some things that I can't do better around just because I have the information. Like I can't stop being selfish or resentful or drunk just because I know. I need a power that's greater than me, which takes me back to dependence. What am I going to depend on? My own thinking? My own understanding? Well, hell, that got me here. Or am I able to look back honestly in the 4th step and in the 5th step and in the 6th step and say, the way that I've been doing it hasn't worked. Hasn't worked. I got home and wondered where the other shoe was. I wondered where I was. Where's the car? Who are you? Yeah. What? And because I lived in a way that didn't work, enough, not didn't work a little bit, like didn't work enough that I was like, well, let me try Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to tell you how bad it was at 26 to come to Alcoholics Anonymous. It was bad. And so when I look back, I can see that the way that I've been living hasn't worked for me. And am I willing to tell the truth about that? Am I willing to see what my friend Sydney R. out of LA calls the pattern of pain that I've created in my life? I got to Alcoholics Anonymous and I thought my mother abandoned me. She did the best she could. It's this blaming other people. It's this having a victim story. I used to tell a story about how my mother abandoned me at birth. No, she didn't. She couldn't take care of me and left me with some people that she hoped could take care of me. That's the best she could do. And I, in seeing that other people do the best they can do, gives me the grace to see that sometimes I'm doing the best I can do, even when it's not good enough. I called my friend. I'm not going to embarrass them and say who it is. I called my friend and I said, why people don't like me? He started stammering. I was like, don't do that. Tell me why. And he said, because you always got to check people. That's right. If you do or say something stupid, I somehow feel like it's my job to point that out. When you know what it's my job to do? Shut my mouth. And I can't, it's like a Tourette's kind of thing. Like I can't even help myself. I embarrassed myself recently. Some guy that keeps kind of like making moon eyes. I used to be really cute, by the way. Was coming up to me talking about that he has an intuitive thought because he's in his third divorce. And I, standing next to the person that told me to shut my mouth, opened my mouth and said, you should have the intuitive thought before you get married. The man didn't ask me for marital advice. But the thing is that I have this way of living in the world, drunk or sober, that creates the problems I suffer. And this process, this design for living, helps me see it. You guys help me see it so that I can begin the trudge of adjusting. I can surrender it to God and adjust. Why? So I can have more joy. I can have more freedom. I can have more peace. If when I got here, I had known that these steps, because I didn't know it, was a design for living. And it says it all throughout the book. But I thought I was going to come do these things and check it off a list. I'm telling you, I'm an Excel spreadsheet girl and move on with my fabulous life. That it's the struggle. At that Tuesday night meeting that I do, my speaker didn't show, I'm sure my fault. And Ali H., who I love, said that I was up if my speaker didn't show. No, sir, not tonight. But Ralph was there. Thank you, Ralph. And it was brilliant. He talked about, people that know him know he talks about everybody's on the team, but not everybody's in the game. And what does that mean? This is really for the new people. There are 3 sets of concepts here, right? 3 sets of guidelines. There's the steps, and the steps are to help me learn how to live in a way that I don't need to drink. I don't need to use. I don't need to sleep with everybody. I don't need to gossip. I don't need to have 50 service commitments. I don't need a stack of Amazon box. I can be okay. It gives me another 12 principles that are the traditions, which keep me from killing you. Do you want to know how spiritually fit you are? Go to the business meeting for your home group. Go ahead. Go on. Go ahead. That's how you know how spiritually fit you are. The home group does it. And then there's another set, the concepts. The concepts are beautiful. I didn't understand how beautiful they were. And there are 2 things I want to say before I get back to the point that I'm trying to make that I'm going to lose. One of the things I love about Alcoholics Anonymous is it helps me see that I don't have to be perfect to be useful. Everybody that I know in Alcoholics Anonymous that I really admire is imperfect. Our founder, Bill, imperfect. But I don't have to be perfect to be useful. The concepts are brilliant. The structure of Alcoholics Anonymous is mind-blowing that we've not burnt it to the ground. But the point I was trying to make is that the 3rd tradition says all you need to be a member is a desire to stop drinking. You don't even have to be sober to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. You could be a drunk member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Listen to Jimmy D talk. Jimmy D said the only reason that he stayed sober was that on Thursday night he got to put out the sign. It kept him coming. That we shouldn't. If drunk people can't come to AA, where are they going? Listen, welcome. Come on, be wet and be here. Just keep coming. But everybody that's a member isn't doing the deal. Marty C. out of Hamilton, Ontario calls it the club inside the club. Ralph calls it being in the game. And what does it mean? That when I understand and I put into practice, perfectly, absolutely not. In the struggle, in the trudge, I put in the practice. Then I grow. I grow. And so in 4, I get to look in 3 ways. I get to look at my resentments. This is an old spiritual trick AA didn't develop. When I look at why I'm mad at you, I get to see what I did wrong spiritually. When I get to look at why I'm mad at you, because here's the thing, I don't know about you. Let me talk about me. If you do something I don't like, I promise I did something back. I promise. I promise. Even if you don't know it, I did it. I promise. You think you're going to injure me and there's not going to be some correspondence? No, absolutely not. So I get to see the harm that I've done when I look through the lens of being mad at you. I'm all burnt up and it turns out I'm the arsonist. How about that part? And then I get to look at my fears because fears are running the show. Running the show. And then I get to look at my misconduct, starting with sex, but just looking at my relationships. Was I inconsiderate? Was I selfish? Was I, right? Yeah, I was. 100%. And somebody helps me see it. And then in 6 and 5, they help me see it. And in 6, I just admit that it's objectionable. It's objectionable. If it worked, I'd keep doing it. Here's the thing, and for anybody that is like me, that after years of work, months of work, weeks of work, still has a behavior that doesn't serve you, and you keep doing it. Keep doing it. I've come to believe maybe that's useful to God. Maybe that's useful to God because I keep surrendering it and I keep having it. I doubt it, but maybe if somebody is helped by my checking, I doubt it, but I keep doing it. I'm trying not to do it. And then in 7, I close this prayer that I've opened in 3. That's why there's no amen in 3, right? And what does that look like? You know, it looks like me saying that God, I want to be free from the bondage of myself, from my point of view, from my perception, from my like, I think I know what's best for me. Hell, I think I know what's best for you. And I'm trapped in that. And in 7, I admit that, you know what? How about you just have all of me, God? I'm not picking and choosing what I'm given. Just take me. I recently moved into my apartment and I've been on a little bit of a journey. I was in Oakland. I got here at 23 years old, drunk, a mess. And at 26, I got sober. Um, and remember, I've been drinking since 4, scotch since 8, bar drinking since 13. Bar drinking is expensive. You guys start doing that at home at some point. Um, my mother got sick and I went to New York to help her transition, which is really a demonstration of Alcoholics Anonymous because we didn't have that relationship that some people talk about having with their mother. I didn't have that. My aunt that raised me, I had that with her. She saved my life. She made me possible. God gave me someone to love me in a way that made me possible. But my mother, it was a more interesting, complicated relationship. But I showed up. I showed up because Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me the difference between right and wrong. More importantly, it's taught me how to do the right thing, even when I don't want to. It begins with little things, right? Making your bed, doing the laundry, keeping the house clean. Oh, Lord, mopping. I hate mopping. Um, that I do these little things that I don't want to do because they're the right thing. And then I learn how to do bigger things I don't want to do, and then bigger things I don't want to do. And so my mom gets sick, and I go back to New York to help her get better or transition. And she transitions, and I think I'm coming back to this beautiful life I've built in Oakland. And I realize I'm 57 that the women in my family live until their mid 80s. And I ask myself, how do I want to spend my last 30 summers? And I decide to retire from my job and to travel. And somewhere along the way, I decide I want a house with an in-ground pool because I think that floating in water is the best connection to God I've found. It just, I don't know, everybody's got something different. That's my thing. So I go on this journey to find an in-ground pool, but that don't work out, right? Why am I telling you this story? Because my job, as I see it in Alcoholics Anonymous on this spiritual path, is just to show up and do my best and follow the path. And it may lead where I think it's leading, and it may not. And if it doesn't lead where I think it's leading, then that's not. If God wanted me to be floating in an in-ground pool, that's what I'd be doing right now. If I do what I'm supposed to do to the best of my ability, then what is happening is God's will. My job is to accept it, to find joy in it, to find happiness in it, to find peace in it, to not depend on my own understanding, but to depend on the power that has actually brought me from the gates of hell to happiness. So in 7, I'm like, look, I don't even know what's good. And then 8, I just walk through my life and make a list of the people, man. There are people. I was following Ralph around, and he was speaking at this some online thing in the beginning of the pandemic. And he said, wow, Nancy, that was a great 9-step talk. Wow, Nancy. He must have said it 4 times. And I hit the host and I was like, can I get Nancy's talk? I mean, what did Nancy say? And Nancy's talk was so mind blowing that I called her and said, can you take me? Will you walk with me? And I've been walking with Nancy. Nancy and Ralph were in Vancouver together. And I told Nancy that story. And she's like, I didn't even say that to Ralph. I was like, Ralph, no. And I wanted to walk with her because I understood from her in a deeper, different way, 9 and 10. Sometimes I retroactively have an amends to make. Sometimes people pop up on the list, retroactive, what? Why? Because I'm growing. And the thing I thought was okay before, as I grow, I can look back and see that wasn't okay. Example. My sister was a type 1 diabetic. And they were like, you're not going to live to 5. You're not going to live to 8. You're not going to live. And she lived into her 20s. But, was probably one of us. And so didn't do none of the stuff you're supposed to do. Example, she goes to the diabetic camp for children and cuts her face jumping over the fence to go to the candy store, right? I totally can relate to that, right? And so when she has a child, which they're like, you're not going to survive the pregnancy. When she's 2, she succumbs to actually AIDS. And back then it was a terrible way to die. And I wanted to take her daughter, and my mother wanted to keep her. But at 15, my mother just couldn't do it anymore. I mean, my niece is a beast. And she came to live with me. And by the way, we should pass legislation that it's illegal for teenagers to move in with parentless people, childless people. Man, she gave me a run. She gave me a full run. But I was afraid that she would, knowing my family, not be able to be self-sufficient. So when she came to live with me, I focused on the things I thought were important. I did my best, just like my mother did. And so I taught her about her FICO score. I taught her about hard work. I got her out of high school on time. I got her into I mean, hog-tied and dragged. And then when she moves out, she don't call me. I mean, I'm like, you got to clean the bathroom with your toothbrush. Like I'm on that drill sergeant because I think I'm preparing her for life. And when she doesn't call, she doesn't call, she doesn't call. I only hear from her when she wants money. And here's the pattern. Have a Jesus day. Have a Jesus day. Can I have money? But it's the pattern. And I'm like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. So because I don't have kids, I don't know that that's what they do. I'm like offended because, I don't know. And after, 11, 12 years of this, I help her get a car. I mean, all the stuff. I've been injured multiple times through it, but I love her. And I owe this debt to my sister who's gone. But I help her get a car in September. In November, in December, she's coming into New York for Christmas. And I called 2 days before Christmas and I said, are you still coming? And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm here. Well, girl, I ain't heard from you. Are we going to get together? And she can't make time for me. And I tell her to lose my number. Lose my number. I got to be 30 years sober, 25, 20. Lose my number. Lose it. I feel good about that decision. I sure do. And then I hear Nancy. And I realized that what I was doing was I was projecting my fear of being poor and broke on her. And I was preparing her for my fear. There wasn't enough, baby. It's going to be okay. I love you no matter what. Am I mad at myself about that? No. I'm doing the best I can. But I could see it and I was able to go back and try to mend it. Years later, I come to Oakland for a visit and I make a dinner date with her. And this time she says yes. And she shows up an hour and a half late for dinner. Now I want to be, I want to be mad, but I decide to not be mad. It's not like me. This is God. And we get to dinner and, we're just chatting and I'm just being loving because God is love. And the girl tells me that she has a drinking problem. I can't help her in the way I want, in the way that I can help other people. But I've asked everybody I know that I respect, will you help her? I've been in Oakland since the 19th of June, and I can't find her. But I know that she has a God, and that if I stay in my lane and I do what I can do, that everything is going to be perfect. Maybe not what I want, but incredible. So sometimes step 9 isn't forward, sometimes it's backwards. And when I grow spiritually and I can go back and mend the tears in the universe that I create with my own buffoonery, then I open the gateway for other things. For the new people, for Yana. Step 10 is just step 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Practice over and over and over again, baby. It's just the watching. Watching what? Watching me. You know what I'm an expert at? Watching you. I'm an expert at watching you because watching you allows me to get up on the high horse of self-righteousness that I adore. Now, it's not no real horse. It's the little horse in front of the supermarket that you need a quarter to ride. That's all it is, right? But that doesn't bring me to joy and freedom. It's the watching me. And that's the first instruction in 10. Watch me. For what? What am I watching for? Same things that got me in trouble. In 4. Resentment, fear, dishonesty, selfishness, right? And then I turn to God immediately because I can't do anything about it. And then I tell somebody, because if I don't say it out loud, it didn't happen. Give me a day or two, right? Give me a day. I've minimized it. Oh my God. You probably didn't even hear me call you stupid, right? It was a mumble. No, I was shouting, but I got to tell somebody. Then I've got to amend it if I've hurt someone. And it's not a growth step until you do this 5th part, which is resolutely turn your attention to somebody you can help. That's how I grow. When I work with people, and so here's the challenge. It's a 90-day challenge. If you do the nightly inventory and you answer the 10 questions on page 86 every night, no yes or no with no explanation. Write it down like you're going to have amnesia and you need to know who you were. Answer the questions every night for 90 days. And then every morning for 90 days, you wake up and read On Awaken. I promise it'll revolutionize your life. It'll change your recovery. And in 12, there are these 3 parts, right? 1, it's the promise. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of prayer in the ashram and speaking in tongues, no. As a result of practicing these spiritual principles, man, honesty, restitution, humility, just, practice over and over. I'm going to have this spiritual awakening. What is that? Personality change sufficient to bring about recovery. I can do 2 things. 1, I can carry the message found in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, and what an honor it is. I don't want to do it, but what an honor it is. And 2, I can go out in the world and try to apply these things everywhere. My job, the supermarket, the everywhere. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The difference is I now know more than I did when I got here when I've misstepped. I'm sure I'm still misstepping in ways I think are okay, but I know now more. And the more I know, the more I can surrender. The more I can surrender, the more peace I can have. I'm out of time. I want to read this before I stop. It's one of my favorite passages in the book, page 275. Sylvia Kay, the first woman in Alcoholics Anonymous with long-term sobriety. No shade to Marty Mann. Marty was beast. Okay. Middle of the page, first full paragraph. AA is not a plan for recovery that can be finished and done with. Oh, it's a plan for recovery, but I'm not going to ever be finished. It's a way of life. I need you to hear that, Yana. It's a way of life. And the challenges contained in its principles is great enough to keep any human being striving for as long as he lives. We cannot outgrow this plan. As arrested alcoholics, they don't mean handcuffs, they mean the desire to stop drink has been arrested. As arrested alcoholics, we must have a program for living that allows for what? Limitless expansion. Bookmark that. Limitless expansion. Keeping one foot in front of the other is essential to maintaining our arrestment. I got here, my first home group was the Rapid Noon, and the people, a guy came in with 10 years and he had relapsed. And I was like, what happened? And he said, I started coasting. You can only coast one way downhill. Keep one foot in front of the other. Others may idle in a retrogressive groove going backwards without much danger, but retrogression can spell death for us. However, it is not as rough as it sounds. And here's my favorite part, and I'm going to stop. As we do become grateful for the necessity that makes us toe the line, and we find that we're compensated for a consistent effort by countless dividends. Limitless expansion, countless dividends. It's the best deal in town. Thank you, Glenn.